Okay, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Erica Purvis, who's going to talk about open design for a circular economy. Thanks, Erica.
Thank you. First at the start, while we're in the thing for apologizing for presentations, this is a mash-up of a Pikakucha and a kind of a 40-minute one. So one's 5 minutes and the other's 40. And also a bit what happened last weekend. So we'll see how that goes. I'm also from the north, but really north, from Scotland. So that's what I see as the north. First of all, I'd like to be open with you. Sometimes when you come or get invited or come to things like this that have a name, like the Geek night, you're like, do I fit in? Do I belong? Is what I'm talking about relevant? Should I come here? But ultimately, actually, I think it's really important to kind of step out your comfort zone sometimes, and that's how innovation or sharing and networks like this happen. Also, I'm not finished. Have I got all my ideas? Do I have my really clear things that I want to get across to you now? Is it all perfect? But actually, perhaps we need to share things more openly before we think we've got that finished article, because as we go along, then we can actually learn and develop that way. And maybe sometimes some of you might look at things and think, well, actually, maybe it could be done in a different way, and we can evolve and we can grow in a different perspective as well. This is a friend of mine who I was like, that's a nice bookcase, and it's her granddad's old ladder that she put together as well. So a bit of an introduction. This is me, drawn by a friend, Marcela Terredna, talented designer. She now works for Greenpeace, and sometimes her things are projected on the side of the House of Commons. I've not been projected though, but maybe she'll get there soon. My background's product design engineer, mechanical engineering, with design as well, and I've kind of started my life as a product design engineer in different companies. Philips in the Netherlands. I know far too much about vacuum cleaners. It's stofzuigers in Dutch, if anyone would like to know. So I think there's a repair cafe in Reading, so I can maybe help out on that a bit. But coffee machines, all of these things, soya milk makers. But what I did there was always specialize in eco-design and sustainability. So it was aspects of energy efficiency, material usage, but also linking actually to the presenter beforehand, usability, because actually a lot about sustainability is how people use products, particularly electrical appliances. If they're on a lot of the time, the big impact will be as you're using a vacuum cleaner, possibly for 7 or 8 years, or even longer if it's actually been designed better. After a number of years there, I like solving problems, and particularly around sustainability. Sometimes the problem's not necessarily a product. I was really interested in behaviors, consumers, citizens, I prefer to call them that, and also policy changes that actually help to move maybe these areas forward. So I moved to London, and I started working for an environmental charity called Waste Watch as a program designer. And also they merged with Keep Britain Tidy, so if anyone recognizes the Tidy Man, that little guy on the side of the dustbin, they started that about 60 years ago from the Women's Institute, when actually we started making a lot more stuff. We started producing more packaging, and it started ending up everywhere. We've just introduced the bag charge recently. That's almost a little small step to kind of start fighting all of this packaging and plastic and things. But they also do eco schools, river care, beach care, blue flag beaches, the quality of our oceans and things like that. So some big campaigns also around the probably known litter. A lot of things around working with people in different areas of London, in the estates, people from diverse backgrounds as well, around recycling. I don't know if you know, with recycling in the England or the UK, we've got targets to meet for the EU. Thank God for the EU. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't be doing anything. Pardon? Yay! I wasn't going to get political, but I think in terms of environmental stuff, there's a lot of things that actually filter down, and where would we be at without that? So we've been flatlining, and we're not getting any better, and the government are already getting sued for air quality, but like, how can we move forward? After that, I work for myself now and move between these disciplines, the technical side and the behavior change and the policy, to really try to bring them together as well. Doing a lot of things like design things, hackathon type things around sustainability, other programs with charities, Institute of Mechanical Engineers. I'm on a standards committee to do with the circular economy and things like that. Right now, I'm also working in a hardware-focused accelerator slide plug for them. I said they would. They're based in Hayes, but they really focus on physical product development, although a lot of digital as well. But yeah, this is great, right? Making lots of stuff and products. And I don't know how many are familiar with this kind of circular economy or linear economy, but this is the way it's happened for a long time, the industrial kind of mindset of business. We make something, we design it, we sell it, that's great. We get the money from that. But what about it? Where does it go? And what about the next stages and the resources that we're using up for this planet that's growing? So I've spent a lot of time at places like this and talking to the people who recycle these things and thinking about how can we actually recycle with them, design with them to actually make sure that when it ends up like that, that it can be separated better, that the material can be a better quality. That it even ends up there is one of the big problems as well. Again, on usability, I don't know, does anyone recognize this? It's a bit closer to home. So this is Reading Festival last year, when everyone's gone home. So I spent 4 days doing my most extreme field research in tent waste and looking at the mindsets, the different ways of design and things around that, because I think this epitomizes the society unfortunately we have now, that's kind of acceptable, that's where a lot of products end up, that unfortunately that's what I trained to be. So I've been looking at a lot around the circular economy. It's originally been called more cradle to cradle, and actually a lot of the principles hold true in eco-design. And also the waste hierarchy, which if you go into school or you remember from your school days, reduce, reuse, recycle. It's quite a simple message, but we haven't moved that much further than trying to recycle a bit. So right now I work with a lot of companies and organizations around looking at these different loops around mixing product service systems and leasing models as well, to try and move away from kind of the state of what waste today. And alongside this, recently, I've got more interested in open. I think I was open naturally, kind of collaborative, transparent, trying to be clear and allow with others to work with it. I've never been great at getting any IP, so that's probably a good one in that respect. And I think a lot of you in this room are probably even more experienced and recognize this is the Linux kernel being made collaboratively, openly, being built on from lots of sides there. And there's lots of elements of open. There's movement towards open data, open software, open education, open science, all of this. And I think what's interesting now is the flux between this methodology and this mindset and what it could bring towards sustainability, which actually naturally a lot of people really want to be collaborative and move things forward. I think a lot of you have seen probably Tesla opening up some of their patents recently. So actually big companies, big organizations are taking this forward on the product level because they recognize actually maybe this also helps to push an area or a topic in our favor as well. Open innovation's been quite a buzz thing for a while. Sometimes I'm slightly skeptical about Coca-Cola or Unilever or other people setting, naming names, an innovation challenge, which then sometimes ends up getting a bit taken in-house. So is it just getting free ideas for them that doesn't necessarily really build that collaborative culture? But I think there are more and more that there's social enterprises, charities using this as well to stimulate real solution change. And now moving on to the hardware, physical products. So this is, I suppose, my realm originally. We've got things like Open Desk, Open Beehives, smart citizen projects with air and monitors, a lot linked with the Things Network really as well. And WikiHouse, where this realm of software is beginning to move into the hardware development. And what does that mean when citizens can take control and share and develop products? Also around our kind of manufacturing models, that instead of transporting stuff, actually we can transport more data, and that could maybe be done more locally again as well. And other elements of kind of open data tracking and tracing is that transparency that people are beginning to want more of, from SourceMap, where you can trace your supply chains, OpenLCA, where you can also build using quite usually expensive software. I did lifecycle analysis before, and I couldn't really afford the big high-profile thing, but actually OpenLCA, it's a very good software that you can also build and understand your product impact throughout the life cycle as well. This is, has anyone heard of Fairphone? So this is it's actually a smartphone now that started off as an ethical campaign, questioning, well, what if, and they got crowdfunded, like, what if we could develop a phone that we knew where it was made, that we weren't using conflict materials, and they actually got funded asking this question, said, well, the best way we're going to do it is try to do it ourselves. And now they're on their second model, which they've actually looked at circular design aspects, so bringing in modularity. I think they've brought in the first modular phone before Google's Arius and things like that, looking at, and they're really open, saying the best thing we can do is try and make people keep their phone for at least 6 years, which is quite difficult with the developments, and they're actually a new company. So there will be those kind of teething developments as they go. So there's a definite trend happening to this and going on. And what I'm going to talk about now is the Open Source Circular Economy Days. This was London, but we also actually came to Reading one day, and actually it goes around the world. It's a global event that was started last year with these kind of questions around it, that how can this open source methodology and mindset and thinking also support more sustainable design, a more transparent approach, and some of those problems that we're seeing in the current manufacturing, particularly manufacturing supply chains as well. Also, quite a few had taken part in some of these events where you come together for a really great weekend and you have great ideas, and then they kind of disappear and they're put to the side. But then what would it be if it's more using open source methodology? So actually they become projects and they're all connected, and other people around the world can also connect to it in that aspect as well. Yeah, so this was the original team. There's two from Berlin, one me, I don't know where I'm from really, a bit of Scotland, a bit of London at the moment, the Netherlands, Ireland and France. And we were like, well, what would it be if we put that together? Wouldn't it be nice if three of these cities or countries could collaborate one weekend and do it? So last year it ended up becoming 30 cities around the world, and this year more than 70 places took part over the weekend. But it's not just about the weekend, because actually it's building lasting links and projects that collaborate together and share, and the relationships as well. I think what's really nice is the diversity of the places, and some of them, looking at Twitter, looking online, they're still all documenting. I still need to document some stuff from it as well, but it just blows your mind of what. No, is it Beirut? Is that anywhere? Budapest? Helsinki. We were honestly trying. I work with a Ukrainian guy, and I was like, I was pushing as well. And what's also quite nice is the diversity, mixing the tech, the sustainability with the grassroots innovation. There were some people who had never, like, this is just from Google Hangout, and some people had never used that before or connected in that way, and they're all sharing what they're getting up to. This is Nazim in Cairo, and he's kind of working on really interesting things around water there as well. So we use open organization, so everything's openly organized and everyone could plug in online, both how you're organizing it in your city and posting your tasks. And so then you could search and see which other cities or countries could also be working on similar things as you. This bit, I would say, is very in development of working how it all gets going. And again, it's on that spectrum because you want to make sure that you're able to invite new people who don't necessarily feel comfortable with open source, with software, with technology, all of this, but how can you make it usable? It's not got the best interface yet, or the best experience, I would say, particularly this bit. And I think it will be evolving as it goes along, and as we get the feed in from the different local organizations. So then what was very important was that online aspect was supplemented with offline. So this is Berlin, Bogota, and Barcelona, just really working on those days on the ground, practically prototyping stuff as well, especially around sustainability. You get quite a lot of initiatives, like Earth Hour or things like that, where you switch off lights for an hour, and that's, yes, it's good, and it brings awareness, and it makes you think, but I think what this was about was creating, well, what can we do, and what can we make, and how can we actually show it and move forward that way. What was really nice is that you actually see they're all kind of sitting naturally in circles, which I think in a circular economy project is quite nice, and that natural form all around the world that people take when they're sharing and discussing and debating. From the London aspect, we had kind of two key areas that we're looking at. This is Tristan from Open Energy Monitor, and he makes open source energy monitoring equipment from Wales, in a lovely place from Wales. And what he's really interested in is he's aware he's making an energy monitor, but he wanted to know how much energy am I making my monitor. And I think that's a really interesting thing with products and sustainability ones as well. What are the lifetime aspects of it, and what are the life cycle costs of producing what I'm making? Because sometimes you might think you've made a solution that makes things better, but when you look at it in a holistic aspect, it could actually have made things worse. He's not made things worse, but he shouldn't ship to Australia so much. That's quite a big impact. So he uses things like Arduino boards and Raspberry Pis and things like that. So if we could provide information that's standardized, that other people who are using those things could actively access and build upon, and build awareness in that sector, as well as the making of the stuff, considering like the impact of even some of the pieces being built on it as well. So he came back this year, and we're working on that, and almost like a decision-making tree. I work a lot in like make spaces and hack spaces and fab labs and things like that, and there's almost that thing about how can you support just building in simple questions along the way when you've got people maybe for a moment using a 3D printer or a CNC machine, that you know, what are the products you're making and how are they going to be used and where might they end up. And then another project was similar around that, around some of the guidance and supporting people setting up these spaces, and went on to research with the Royal College of Art. So this continued this year. So this is from just this weekend. This is happening. So we were taking. There you go. I said you got massive thumbs up from people. So what we did was, we had Friday in the machine rooms in London, taking forward some of the projects from the year before, which had also kind of evolved and been built on and connected with some other countries. On the Saturday, people came to Reading. It was Reading Green Festival, Water Festival. And what was really important was just kind of getting out of the usual places and spaces and looking from that aspect. Well, what circular economy, what open source, what things are going on here? So a few of them actually went and had a really nice chat in the bike kitchen as well, and learned how many bikes you fit. About 600, is that right?
At least 600. In 2 years ago we opened, we fixed and sold 600 bikes, and probably made thousands of bikes safe.
Yeah, so I think it's that aspect, like mapping these different local or like international initiatives that are happening or connecting around the world. Ultimately, we'd like to make it like an open map. Oh, we could all do this together. Of some of these different things where you start to find those links, either from materials, from products, from different things that help to really build up a really interesting system that starts to kind of show that buying new stuff, that repairability is fine. We were kind of supported by iFixit, a kind of organization in America. And what they do is whenever Apple or somebody release a product is pull it open and figure out how you can repair it, because a lot of stuff are renowned for not really being built to be repairable anymore. They also supply kits to actually be able to unscrew and repair those types of products as well. And then we spent Sunday also thinking about, there's a new mayor in London. I don't know how much he'll really be able to change, but what would London look like if it was more built around open source and circular economy principles? So we're going to be writing that up and doing a kind of open letter for the new mayor as well. So it's kind of experimental, it's kind of exploring, but I think it's really just interesting to see how many people just kind of got it around the world, that it was natural. It's a bit of a push, I suppose, against some of the top-down approaches, especially around kind of circular economy and things like that. It's been a very top-down from businesses, but actually kind of businesses still have to decide what they're doing or making actually from citizen needs or wants or demands. And I think this is a really interesting way that you can really see there's a push and a move towards it. It's a great way of building trust and collaboration when you have to be transparent and open and show people how you're doing things as well. I think that was my main things I was going to say. That's kind of my motto. Do you want to listen to me drink? No. In what aspect getting worse?
The problem. So you.
I don't think it's getting any better.
So you showed right at the beginning the tents at Reading Festival, and I've got a son. This is a terrible shameful admission. I've got a son who went to Reading Festival and told me about a game called Tent Wars, where you basically stand up in your tent and someone else stands up in their tent, and you run at each other until the tent's destroyed. And like all these tents left over, I mean, I was sort of shocked, but I just wonder whether the whole circular economy thing is fighting a losing battle at the moment. Is the whole world going bonkers? or what?
Oh dear, this is They also pile up their deodorants and everything, and also set fire to them, so they explode their tents.
He didn't tell me that.
I didn't speak to it. I don't know.
I last camped at Reading Festival in 1994, and I think it's because nowadays the tent is very, very cheap.
Yep.
The tickets for the festival are very, very expensive. So if they can afford to go to the festival, they can't be bothered to take the tent home, most of them.
Yeah. Well, I think for things like that, and I think with most almost design solutions, it's not a product solution just that. It's a kind of system policy. It's an overarching. Well, yeah. It's what's the brand that we're trying to thing? Is it the students that have just finished their A levels or GCSEs, and that's their kind of the festival falls just after they found out the results, or and it's their let-off period. I think there's a lot of intertwined. I think. Yeah, there's been this growth in these pop-up tents, which pop up great, and they have instructions that go like, oh, you just open it and pop it up. But if you ever try to read the instructions how to pop it down, I borrowed one for a friend the night before, and unfortunately I opened it by mistake and it popped up in my room, and I was just like, it took me 45 minutes to get it down. I had to find a YouTube video and find the right version, and because I'd never done one before, and that's what a lot of those people are facing, or when they go to Reading, they bought a pop-up tent, pops up great, and then when they're leaving, it doesn't pop down as easy. So yeah, that's a kind of almost design flaw. Then there's a kind of the cost of tents is so cheap now, and if you club together, then it's almost worth nothing. Then there's some parents who actually prefer you not to bring your really muddy tent back, so they will actively buy just cheap tents that you can leave, and it's almost a tradition for many as well. So there's not one solution fits all. It's lots of little interventions at different levels if they're going to try. I mean, it's not just Reading, all festivals have got a lot worse. I used to go to Tea in the Park, and I don't remember half as many people leaving tents then, or you borrowed your parents and brought it back.
Totally the other world of Internet of Things, which I love. We're building all this stuff, and governments are investing bazillions in it, but the rate of change means that there's going to be so much obsolescence over the next few years. There's going to be a phenomenal amount of waste coming out of that. How do you go about addressing that sort of a problem?
I think it's really difficult. There's organisations like the Knowledge Transfer Network, who work across Innovate UK, and they have a sustainability and circular economy division that try to support and influence that they build those thinking across all these competitions, because there's so much smart cities, wearable tech, Internet of Things, and that's where a lot of the funding is going. But also, how can you build these considerations into those types of organisations when they're getting the funding? I think for me it is a real danger area where a lot of things from tables to seats to chairs to clothing that didn't necessarily have a digital aspect to it suddenly brings a whole new dimension to the recycling scheme or the end of life. And as you say, they're going to have very fast turnarounds. It's scary. I say, I don't know the solution yet.
I mean, talking about obsolescence, I mean, would you agree part of the problem is designed obsolescence? For example, mobile phones. It's a business strategy. The market's saturated, so you have a new shiny phone every 2 years. You've got phones where you can't easily replace the battery and so on. So it's become a way of making people just spend money that they don't really need to. I mean, I haven't bought a new phone in years. I've got a Samsung S4, perfectly good, because my mate has got an S7.
Yeah.
So you're challenging a business culture, but also a consumer culture where you assume you have the nicest shiny new thing every time. So you're challenging the way people live these days.
I have to say, I think their business models are built on that, a lot of them still. Another thing though is that actually they're kind of got themselves stuck in it because of marketing, because of advertising. They've persuaded people a lot of these aspects. So even if there are companies that are almost wanting to shift now, but they're almost fighting against so many years of that message, or all of their other competitors doing it. I worked in the vacuum cleaner area quite a lot. So there, often vacuum cleaners are sold we've got a 2,000 watt motor, and that doesn't mean anything because it's about what the suction is at the floor. Plus, you don't want it too strong, because actually you couldn't move your vacuum cleaner, so you have to create losses. But actually, because they've built that mindset and that power war that's big is better or wattages are more, then they almost have to go back on 15, 20 years of consumer mindsets and marketing. So it's not going to it's not